Go to the people whose business it is to influence others, and you will learn what works. Because if they were using strategies that didn't work, they wouldn't be around there for
Right.
very long, just by an evolutionary argument. I mean, if you're using strategies that don't work, you will soon pass away out of the system. But if you're using strategies that allow you to thrive and benefit, well, then you'll pass those strategies on like beneficial genes to new generations of influent professionals. So I decided to be one of those new generation by sitting in their training program. They wanted me to know more about how to influence people, and I was there with my notebooks and my tape recorders and learning and absorbing everything I could from the people whose business it was to get us to ascent. And the
Yeah.
thing that, as I say, surprised me was that there were only 6 things they all agreed on at that time. Wow. If those must be the 6 pillars for successful influence, then.
I feel like you're a very curious minded person and someone who's so curious that you want to just go in and observe instead of reading it from a second or third or fourth hand. Is there anything you feel like with how you were brought up or how you grown up, Bob, that influenced your curiosity that you have this curious nature within you?
Yeah, I was born into an entirely Italian family in a predominantly Polish neighborhood in a historically German city, Milwaukee, in an otherwise rural state.
Yeah.
And I realized that when I went from one of those settings to another, the rules changed a little bit about what was most successful, right, in getting those people in city, urban versus rural environments, or Italian dinner tables versus Polish, German dinner tables, all my friends and so on. It was different. So, yeah, I think that got me curious about what were those differences. The thing that struck me even back then was to be looking at, besides the differences, what was the same in getting
Mm,
people to move in your direction. The differences were on the margins. The commonalities were the drivers, the big drivers of change. So when I went out and undercover and went to various kinds of professions, if I was in a sales organization and learned, okay, I learned about, and then if I went to a marketing organization, they would say, marketing is not the same as sales. Here's the difference. All right. And there were differences. And then if I went to an advertising agency, they say, advertising is not the same as marketing or sales. And there were differences. And if I went to a public relations organization, they say PR is different from advertising. And if I went to a recruiting, they'd say recruiting is not the same as PR, believe me. And they were right. But by focusing on these differences, they were missing the most important question. What's the same?
right.
What works wherever you are trying to move people in your direction? And that's what I was looking for, these universal principles of influence. And I think that's the thing that my early childhood, recognizing that there were all these differences among the groups that I was dealing with, but there was something that was the same, and those were the ones I should pay attention.
That's so amazing. It reminds me of something that Jeff Bezos once talked about, which was everybody asked me what's going to change or what's new, but nobody asked me what will never change. And that's the most important part of it, which which is human truths will never change, no matter what comes in. Technologies come and go. He says people always want things to be easier.
Oh, exactly. Easy. Make it easy. And this is one of the things that we're doing now. We're calling some techniques that we call the small bigs. The smallest change you can make to your influence appeal that produce the biggest change in your influence success. But yeah, and there's a old Chinese saying, um, the years tell what the days can't say. Look over the precedent, look over the sweep of time, and you will see what's the solid pieces of evidence of how you should behave, not the most recent changeable, flexible
Yeah.
with influx kind of thing. You never know if that's going to stay in place, but the years tell what the days can't say. So I was looking for the evidence of the years. My book Influence is sometimes called the Bible of online marketing. And people will say to me, that book was written before there was online marketing. How could you look ahead and see this platform for influencing people before it existed? And I always have to admit, I never looked ahead. I looked inside us. What were the factors that always have moved us toward yes? They're still going to be there no matter the platform on which that we use to deliver those factors that reach in and strum strings inside of us that have always been there and that we resonate to as a result.
Before I ask you about your favorite small big, I want to ask you, I'm curious about the backstory behind how you found and decided to launch the seventh principle of unity. Like what was happening when you decided and found evidence for that?
Yeah, the seventh one, the principle says essentially that we prefer to say yes to those individuals who we can use the term we to describe. People who are not just like us, that is similar, but are of us, are one of us. And we follow them, we favor them, we protect them, right? Because they're of us. There's a part of us in there, right? And I started seeing it in the literature of behavioral science, in something called social identity theory, and the research that had been done along those lines, and then seeing it all around me in how we have become more and more polarized as a species. We have people on this side of the world and this side of the world. We have people with this religion and that religion, with this political persuasion and that political affiliation, and a religious affiliation, and so on. And it goes down to every group in which we call the people in that group that there's a sense of partnership and commonality of not just interest, but commonality of image, of self-image. Okay. I'll give you a trivial example, but it works. So I grew up in Wisconsin, I said, and my favorite NFL team has always been the Green Bay Packers. Right. And I saw an article a while ago that listed the celebrities who were big fans of the various National Football League teams. And I learned that Justin Timberlake and Lil Wayne were both avid Green Bay Packer fans. And Howie, I immediately thought better of their music.
Did you go listen? You go listen?
Yes, and I went and walked around because I wanted them to succeed. It wasn't just that I favored them.
Yeah.
I wanted them to. So, I mean, that's a principle of influence. if you can honestly convey to an audience or a recipient of your message your connection with them, of an identity connection, uh, and this can be shared locale, it can be shared employment
Yeah.
at the time. Uh, some can, where you can say we, right? They want you to succeed. They want you to do well. They will say yes to a greater extent. Yeah,
Yeah. It reminds me of a few things. One is, I think it was that campaign, Don't Mess with Texas, where they're trying to reduce littering, which they reduced 70% of people littering with that campaign by using that principle of unity, saying, hey, if you are a Texan, you don't litter, you're strong, you're rebellious, but we don't litter and we keep our streets clean. That
that's a
was a big
brilliant
one.
example, because people knew it on the one. They knew that they were in Texas, and the people are right, and the people around them were mostly but you had to bring it to consciousness.
Yeah.
You say, we're all, hey, don't mess with us. We're Texans. We don't mess with Texas, right? And on the positive side of that, there was a study where researchers had a young woman collecting money for United Way on a campus. She had a table, and as fellow students went by, she was dressed like a student, about student age. She would ask for donations, and she was getting some kind of response, because similarity also works. We we like people who are like us, right? But if she added 4 words, I'm a student here too, she increased donations by 450%. I'm one of you. We are it. People say yes to those they feel connected with in some kind of we-based manner.